All right, so we're gonna get started. Thank you everyone for coming today. Today's event is part 2 of helping caregivers through improv. And with me today, I have Craig Price. He's a director of community and education and wellness at the Naples Players, and Sue Ryan, who's a speaker, author, coach, and caregiver. My name is Felicia Saracino. I am the Director of Business Development here at the Arlington of Naples. So many of you have heard of us. So thank you so much for joining us today. And sorry, I'm just gonna change that. So thank you so much for coming here today. We really appreciate your time and hope you get a lot out of this. But first, what we wanna do is we definitely wanna talk about what's your connection with a caregiver right now and how you got here. So we'll go around a little bit.
We'll start with you, Yvette.
I missed what you said.
That's okay. We want to see how you're connected to caregiving right now and what brought you to our group today.
My husband has dementia and I'm his caregiver.
Okay.
Very good.
All right, Margot.
Hi, I'm Margot Escott. I'm a clinical social worker in Naples. My father had Parkinson's and eventually Lewy body dementia, and I was his caregiver for about 5 years. And in my clinical practice, I work with caregivers and I do a little improv occasionally too.
Perfect. Welcome.
Thank
And
you.
Yvette? I think we might be having a little technical difficulties right now. Or she could have stepped away for a second.
Or she could be surfing. She
Yes.
could be riding that wave.
If she's, Felicia, do you want to ask her if she's there? If she wants to put something in the chat, if she'd prefer not to unmute?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Please feel free to use the chat function on the bottom at any time. If you have a question and maybe you're having a little connectivity problems, you definitely can use the chat function and we'll make sure your questions are answered. For the time being, Sue, do you want to go on to you?
Sure. As Felicia said, my name is Sue Ryan. I am thrilled to be here this morning to share with Craig ways that both of us navigate the journeys of caregiving support through our experiences. I am, professionally, I am a speaker and a business coach, and I've also been in roles of caregiving support for nearly 35 years now. And so I also speak and coach with that, and I've written a book on caregiving support. In addition, my precious husband, Jack, is a resident at my Tapestry community of the Arlington of Naples and has been, we just celebrated his 3rd year anniversary there. So I'm thrilled to share what I've been learning over the last 30+ years.
Great, thank you, Sue. And Craig.
Hi, everybody. My name is Craig Price. I'm the Director of Community Education and Wellness at the Naples Players, and I just happen to know everybody on this call very well, which is great. So, but just so you know, what does community education and wellness mean at the Naples Players? This was a title that we developed a little over a year ago because thanks to the efforts of people like Margot Escott and Sue Ryan and the Arlington of Naples, that our classes have grown so large, and that became a full-time position for me. I originally started teaching classes for kids with autism. And Margot was a volunteer in that classroom and also helped me with that class until she was teaching classes of her own at the Naples Players in our wellness department. The wellness department grew to the point that it became a full-time position where I was actually managing all of these classes every day. So instead of being education director and wellness director, now I'm just wellness director, and I can devote full time to classes teaching improv to communities like this, where actually the Arlington has me teaching on Thursdays to their independent living community, where I get to go in online on Zoom and do improv with them. We have our own little improv group called Tada Improv that we are going to actually, they named it. They have their own theme song that one of the members plays on harmonica, and we're going to actually be performing for friends and family. And then the other thing that I've been fortunate to do is taking improv and tailoring it towards this community. As I've seen my mom go through the caregiver's journey, and I've seen my dad go through the caregiver's journey with his wife. So I have two step parents, both with dementia. And I've gotten to see my mom and dad individually go through their caregiving journeys with their loved ones. And I've gotten to see how improv can be adapted to help them connect and help others to connect. And I've been able to teach a number of classes for folks and show them how improv games can help you connect with your loved one. So I'm excited to share some of those games with you today. And the other part of that story I wanted to mention is I got to meet Sue Ryan after I knew her husband for many years at a workshop we did for the Arlington. Margot and I were there teaching together at the Arlington, and who do we meet but Sue Ryan and Jack Ryan right there, and we got to perform and play a lot of great improv games together. It was a lot of fun.
We did, except Jack kept wanting to eat the props.
Well, they were pretty tasty looking. Those kazoos were yummy.
Yeah, we had kazoos. We had, I think, hamburgers and ice cream, and so different things.
Yeah.
One of the things I think, Craig, if we want to go ahead and get started, what we were talking about doing, Craig and I put together 3 different scenarios for today. And the way that we created it for you is we've identified something going on in the caregiving journey, a piece of the caregiving journey. And then what we did is we identified how improv can help us understand what's going on, can help us either become aware and be a sleuth, can help us in how we're working with our caregiver, or can give us insights on how we take care of ourselves. And so we put these together. And as Craig said, he did a great job of taking improv exercises that may have originated with a different purpose and repurposed them to serve the caregiving specific community. And so we're going to kind of talk about the scenario that we're using. We're going to talk about the improv exercise we're going to do. And then we're going to talk about the purpose of the exercise for us. And we're going to do some role playing as well. So Craig, do you want to go ahead and get started with the first one?
Absolutely. As I unmute myself, thank you. The first exercise that we want to do, and as it said in the description of the workshop, is that oftentimes we tend to lose that connection with our loved one who is suffering and living with the memory loss. And to feel connected and to bring that connection back into your relationship with your loved one. One of the games that I love to play is the mirror game. And I do this game in all of my improv classes with all of my students. But for this particular exercise and for this purpose, some of the purposes and goals of this particular game are connection, interaction, that may be lost, but also being present in the moment so that we can really observe our loved one in a finite detail of the changes that might be going on with them and difficulties that they might be having in movement and connection. So we're looking into each other's eyes. We're moving just like they're moving, just like a mirror. So we're going to use this platform that we have now of Zoom. And I'm going to be the leader, and you're all going to be mirroring me. And then we're going to give other people the chance to lead, and we'll mirror them. And what we're really doing is directly looking into the eyes of the person that you're mirroring. So you can mirror their face as well as their hands. You might see them doing other things with their hands, like doing things that you might typically do in a mirror. And you're mirroring activities just like you would do in a mirror. So you're becoming their mirror. And now we can highlight different people and let them take over, and they can do different things than what I did, and we will mirror them. So what you're doing is you're going to take over, and we're going to let you mirror. So I'm going to hand it off to Sue, and we're going to highlight Sue's video. So she's going to be the person that we're going to be following, okay? All right. There we go, Sue.
Hi. Oh. Oh. Yeah. And what I'll say while we're doing this is when I would do this with Jack, what I was observing was his ability to connect with what I said and to see if he could follow along what I was saying. As his disease progresses, he has less ability to connect with me, but I've been able to observe along the way where those losses are so I can adapt and help him have the best experience with what he's able to connect with. And I'm going to hand it off now to Margot.
Good job. Excellent. Now, Shirley, can we see a little movement in there, Shirley, of your hands, and we'll all model your movement? So make sure you get it right in the screen so we can see where those, there we go. Look at that. We can see your hands moving.
You're beautiful, Shirley.
Good job. Excellent. So that is the whole idea, and then we can do the Zoom round of applause. That's the whole idea of the mirror game. Now, the next thing that you'll notice when you play the mirror game with your loved one is when you let your loved one lead, when you're letting the person you're the care partner for, if you let them lead and you start mirroring their facial gestures, and you'll start to see their facial gestures increase, and ultimately you guys will be working together in this mirror. So you may not even know who's leading and who's following by the end of it, because you'll have such a connection, because you're really in the moment, present, staying connected with your loved one.
And they'll naturally, I know that when Jack and I have done this, he used to just kind of naturally start doing that. When you're modeling what they are, you know, when we were kids and we would do that, they kind of naturally do. And what I noticed as the disease progressed and I would do things, he would like try to do it, but he couldn't figure it out. So I could tell he was losing the connection with certain things. And I would try different things to see what he was still connected with. So throughout the progression of the diagnosis, it's great to try different things like this and see what they still have a connection for. I'll tell you one other quick thing about it. I had a personal trainer come in and was training him, and he would show him how to lift the weight and then have Jack do that. And in the beginning, Jack could do it. And then over time, he couldn't connect and match what was going on. So it's a great way for us to know how they're progressing.
Yeah, and it's also a great tool to help us to interact and to accommodate certain things that are changing about our loved one. I know with Jerry, my stepmom, when she started eating really quickly, whenever she got to a meal in the facility where she is currently, she would sit down and eat really quick. And we could not figure out why. So one of the things that really helped her is when we ate with her, we would go in and very slowly eat. And she started modeling our behavior. And we realized that when we weren't there, she was having lunch with other people in the facility. This is back before COVID, when they could have lunch together. And she was eating with people who ate just like that. And she was modeling their behavior, because many of the folks that she was around ate really quickly. They ate, got done with their meal and left the table. And we noticed that she was doing the same thing. So when we would model the behavior of eating slowly, really taking our time with our meal, she would model that behavior back. And it was a great way to deal with it. All right, exercise number 2. Okay. So this one is one that Sue, and a lot of these improv games that you guys are learning today are improv games that we do as in a lot of our classes, but we're tailoring them and adapting them to the needs of the care partner and loved one. And this one is a great example of taking our yes and circle that we used to rapid fire around. And Sue took that idea and helped me to tailor it to this group, where we take a yes and circle and it becomes listening to our loved one, actually taking what we hear and responding appropriately. Now, some of the purposes of this exercise are massive acceptance and radical presence, which you'll hear Sue talk about a little bit more. And that translates in improv language as being in the moment and yes and. And we're really being present and meeting them where they are, meeting them where they're at. And then we're picking up on their conversations. And the ultimate thing to remember is we're not trying to correct things that our loved ones say. We're not trying to make them say or answer what we want them to do. We're not trying to get them to answer the question we want them to answer, or the question that we ask. We need to let go of all that. And in improv, we have to do that all the time. When we walk out on stage, we have to let go of all our preconceived notions. And I always like to look at it like every interaction is like a new scene. So if I walk into it completely prepared for whatever's going to happen and willing to let go of any of the results and just be in the moment, then I find it works better for me. So I even get warmed up before I go in to visit, or when I was visiting in Louisiana recently with my mom and my stepdad, anytime I was going to see my stepdad, I would walk in. Before I walked into the room, I'd have to let go of everything else that was happening outside and be completely in the moment. And that's what this game is all about, the yes and circle. Okay, so, all right, so Margot is waving, saying that she has to leave the group. All right, thank you so much, Margot.
Thank you for inviting me. Bye.
Thanks for being here. So the yes and circle is developed, and it kind of goes like this. Sue and I are going to demonstrate, And if anybody feels free, like they want to jump in, you're welcome to jump in and play along with us.
We'll get you to do that, Felicia. And so what I'll do, I'll just take a moment to explain how valuable this has been for me and how excited I am that Craig was able to come up with an improv exercise. As Jack's disease progresses, he's losing connection with words. And so I'll ask him a question, and he may or may not respond with anything that has anything to do with what I asked him. I start the conversation with a question, and then I just see where it goes. And the goal for me is that he enjoys our conversation. So it's whatever makes him comfortable. I don't care what we end up talking about. And it's often if people were walking down the hall, they wouldn't understand what it is. And yet in the moment, which is all we really have, in the moment, he's enjoying it and he's having a good time in the conversation. So when Craig recommended this as an exercise, I was like, perfect, because the farther his disease progresses, the more this becomes a really valuable resource. So Craig, you want me to ask you a question?
Yeah, why don't you start by asking me a question, and you'll notice that my answers to the question oftentimes have nothing to do with the question, and how Sue then goes on to the next topic or relays that topic, almost like we do in improv. Yes, and taking that suggestion and moving on to the next thing.
Craig, the Atlanta Braves played the Philadelphia Phillies last night in baseball. Did you watch the game?
My dog loves treats.
I love dogs. What's your favorite dog?
Bring back those groceries.
Oh, what did you get at the grocery store today?
Time and time again, I never know what to believe.
You know, I never know what to believe either. Isn't it just something? You know, what do you do?
Where are we going to go now?
Hey, I've got an idea. Let's go for a walk. So as you see, what we're doing is, all I'm doing is wherever he has access to go in his conversation, I go there with him so that it's always on him. It's always something he's comfortable with. He's having a successful engagement, and it doesn't matter at all. I have no emotional connection with, he can't answer me, he's lost this, he's da-da-da. It's nothing. My whole focus is on, how do I take what he has said and re-engage him in a way that gives him a positive outcome. So
it felt for me in the exercise, and if you participate in the exercise, you feel it too. It feels very positive for me as an experience, as the loved one, to have her respond to whatever I say and not correct me and not say, no, I was talking about baseball. She's just going with it. And we do that in improv all the time, and it's so much more successful in a scene. It's also so much more successful in our interactions with our loved one.
Do you want to go ahead and lead it now, Craig, and we'll get Felicia and Shirley involved?
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, that's and so I'll go ahead and ask a question of you, Felicia, and whether you answer the question or not, I'll move on based on whatever you say. Okay?
Oh,
all right. Okay. So are you having a good day today, Felicia?
I'm hungry.
Oh boy, I'm hungry too. I know, I could really use some lunch. What's your favorite food?
Where'd the orange ball go?
Oh, the orange ball is something that we use for bouncing around and playing games. My favorite game is tennis.
I'm hungry.
Oh, hungry. Well, gotta have your food before you exercise. Helps us to have our energy. How are you feeling today?
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just feeling, You know what helps me sometimes is if I get moving. I stand up and I move and swing that tennis racket. Boy, does that have fun. How does it feel when you move your arm?
Do you remember the golf course view?
Oh, yeah, it is beautiful outside. What a beautiful day it is today.
I'm hungry.
Me too. Great day for lunch.
What would you like to eat? Try to always go back if you can with like a question or something that might stimulate them, and if you can.
Based on what she said, to go ahead and try to explore that topic a little bit more?
Yeah, so instead of just saying like, the thing about lunch, and like you did before, is like, what's your favorite food? And then if she says something about a golf course, then ask her a question to see where she can connect. If there's any, she has any capacity to connect with golf course.
Oh, and because that's what you're doing is you're noticing that the word golf came up, and that might be something that's a great connection for your loved one.
So what I do is I listen to a word they use. So anytime Jack says something, like if Felicia had said golf, I'd say, okay, well, in Jack's mind, flitting through his mind right now is the word golf. Let me see if that's something where he has access to connect to it if we pick up on it. And so like if she said, golf course view, it might either be that she likes looking outside or there's something about golf. So just pick something and see where that might take her.
That's great. And it also might be, who knows, that she wants to go outside. She might want to move. Right. Because she looks out there and sees that golf course view in her mind.
Right. So anything we can do to connect with them. So like Felicia, if we had said like golf course view, you said, you got a golf course view. Oh my gracious. I used to love to play golf. Did you ever play golf?
Yes, with my dad.
Oh, I'll bet you had a great time with your dad. What's your favorite thing you and your dad used to do?
Play golf.
Play golf. Did you play golf on a golf course together?
Yes.
Very good. And what's your favorite thing that you hitting the ball, or do you like looking at the golf course? What do you like to do when you're playing golf?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Sometimes I can't remember either. What I do usually remember is that I love ice cream. Do you like ice cream?
Yeah.
What's your favorite flavor?
Chocolate chip.
Oh, I love chocolate chip. Big chocolate chips. And sometimes I like it in a cone, and sometimes I like it in a cup. Do you like your ice cream in a cone or a cup?
Cone too messy.
Cone too messy. Okay, so where she's able to connect, I will keep going right on that. So when I find something that Jack can keep going on with a conversation, I'll keep going. But did you notice like where she said, I don't know. Then I picked up and I went to a different conversation. So the whole thing in it is to keep trying to find places where there can be a connection and just let them keep feeling positive with it.
And the other thing I saw you do, Sue, which was really nice, and I could see Felicia's eyes light up, is when you mentioned something that she did make the connection to, that you found that thing, like ice cream. And she was able to say what her favorite ice cream flavor was. And you are, that's playing to the strengths of your loved one.
Playing to their strengths, finding where it is and playing to it, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
One of the things that we're trained on here is when someone says something of like golf, that's a huge door. You got to open it. You got to go to it. You got to open it and go through it. Yeah. And sometimes that can be intimidating for people to do. But you got to take that leap of faith and go through it, because folks, people give you cues all the time. You have to listen for them, and you can have that connection that way.
Yeah. Very good.
Absolutely. And I notice the more often we do this, the easier it becomes. Like you said, we can talk about it, but practicing it is the key.
One of the things I've noticed with Jack there at the Arlington, as you mentioned, Felicia, that your team is trained for that. When they're trying to support Jack eating now, they'll engage with him about the food and try to be like, oh, you know, this is your favorite thing, isn't it? You know, you love sweet potato fry. Oh, the sweet potato. So they work to try to connect him. We during the pandemic, we would do our video chats while he was eating lunch. And I observed that they were always connecting him to what he was doing at the time, which, for example, was eating, and connecting him to the different food. Yeah, there you go. But finding the things that would support him feeling good about what it was he was doing.
You know, this is a good time to mention for Felicia and Sue and Shirley, the idea of home. I always have really loved that story, Sue, that you've told about home. And it really ties in to this conversation about how we will deal with that question.
I'll share about that. It's a story that I heard in a support meeting. And it was a woman who shared that her husband said, I want to go home. And they were living down here in Florida part-time, and they had a home up north the other part of the time. He kept saying, I want to go home. And so she thought he wanted to go back up north. So they packed everything up and they drove up north and they got home. And he was saying, I want to go home. And she thought, well, we just got home. This is our home. She was using her rational mind, I want to go home, thinking he wanted to go home. And that's not what he was really talking about. And what she then talked to one of the counselors who gave her a series of questions to ask about home. Well, tell me about home. And so, I mean, we could do a role play on it, but the net of what it is that as she was asking him questions about home, what he wanted was to feel secure and to feel safe. And that he wasn't feeling that way. There had been a disconnect with that. And so once they figured it out, they were able to change the way that his environment was and change things so he felt comfortable where he was. And so when our loved ones say they want something, it's the biggest thing we do is like you were talking about yesterday, Craig, we're the sleuth, rather than assuming in our rational mind, oh, they want to go home. So I'll give you a quick story about Jack. As he was progressing, all of a sudden one night we're at home, we're sitting in his office, we're watching TV, we're doing great. And all of a sudden he said, I got to go home. It's getting late. And I had learned this lesson. And so I said, well, honey, no problem. We'll go home. And I started with the deflection exercise to try to figure out, what was going on. And so I said, well, let's go. Are you ready now? We could go right now. And he said, okay. So we get up to go. And I said, oh, by the way, can we just stop at Walmart on the way? I need to pick something up. So he's like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. So we go into Walmart, we walked around, and I said, okay, now I'm ready to go home. Are you ready to go home? Yes, I'm ready to go home. And we went back to our home, and he was fine. And so it is, in the moment, they lose connection that this is their home and they feel safe. And so we deflect them or do whatever it is we can so that we then bring them back into the environment where they do feel safe again.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because yesterday we had a participant who mentioned exactly that she noticed her mom's caregiver saying, tell me about that. Whatever that was, tell me about it. And getting a great description from the person about what it was they were talking about. Emotions, feelings, smells, all of these great answers came out about, tell me about that. So I think that's a great story, and it really ties into what we just did.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
All right. I think we might be ready for the object game.
Uh-oh. You got in trouble yesterday on preparing for the object game. Are you out of the doghouse yet?
Yes, I am. I am out of the doghouse because I did not actually use that object in. Good. Unfortunately, good. I found out that was a bad object to use. So pick an object that your partner won't mind you using. And everyone has pens or pencils around. On my desk, I happen to have a pack of sticky notes and a pen. And we're going to just grab simple objects like this in our environment. And we're going to use them in a fun and interactive way. One of the things that I've noticed through the journey of being, oh, there we go. We got some people have cell phones.
Clock radio.
Oh, a clock radio. That's great. That's great. Yeah. Sometimes I see these items come out a lot in this game where what we're going to do is we're going to use a normal household everyday item that we interact with in a new and interesting way. So, you know, the old classic, take the remote control for the TV and you never know which remote controls which TV, or is it a cell phone, or does it turn on the lights? Who knows, right? So we're going to be okay with that. Some of the things to remember about this exercise is to have fun, to connect with your loved one. It's a great game to play with your loved one and with other people so that you can have fun together, connect with each other. But also remember that you don't want to correct them. Everything they do, everything you do with your object is okay. There are no wrong answers in this game. The only thing we want to try to do is take this item and use it in a new and interesting way, a way that wasn't originally intended to be used, like the remote control for opening up the garage door.
And if you're doing this one-on-one with your loved one, or even in a group, and like we do at the Arlington, is you'll say, now we don't have the phones there, but we'll say, well, okay, pick up your phone, and we see if they still can connect with what a phone is. Or what if you say pick up the phone and they pick up a clock or they pick up something else, we realize what they don't have connection with anymore. Bingo, we play bingo a lot, and it's whether they can. This was a great thing for us with Jack and his progression. He's a numbers guy. And in the beginning, he was great at bingo because he could recognize the numbers. They'd call out, you know, I-15, and he'd go right there. Well, then he couldn't connect with the numbers anymore. He couldn't connect then with the colors. So these are great ways for us to notice their progression. But by doing it this way in a fun game, we're able to see, you know, also creatively what else they might do with it.
Absolutely. And so here we go, being in the moment, accepting whatever answer you're given. But remember, we always want to be safe. So I always encourage people, if you're using pens or pencils for this game, retract the ink or make sure it's an unsharpened pencil. We don't want anybody to accidentally hurt themselves. So as long as everybody's safe, that's perfect. So everybody can grab their object and show us in the screen what your object is. Okay, excellent. Sue has the clock radio. Oh, Felicia has some tissues. And Shirley has some, what does Shirley have there?
Have her phone. Good job,
Shirley. Phone. Excellent. All right, great. And I showed these guys my object earlier. I don't know if anybody recognizes this. The car ice scraper. Doesn't come in very handy down here in Florida, but the ice scraper. So we're all going to come up with different unique ways to use our objects. So while we have our objects in our hand right now, you can look at it, see if there's anything about it that you can think of. How am I going to use this in a way that it's not intended to be used? So for example, if I had a pen, like we talked about earlier, I might take this pen and use it to conduct an orchestra. Okay. Or as a wand, Expelliarmus. I don't know any spells from Harry Potter, but yeah, something like that. All right, so that's my Harry Potter spell. All right, as a wand. So let's see what objects everybody has, and if you have any unique ways that they're not intended to be used. All right. Sue has a clock radio there, and how's she going to use it? Oh, looks like she's playing the harmonica. Excellent. All right, great. Let's give her a Zoom round of applause. Very nice, Sue, and your harmonica playing. Excellent. All right, Felicia has tissues there.
A phone holder.
Oh, very good.
Very nice. A phone holder. I love it. There we go. And actually has a practical use. It might actually come in very handy. Okay, and Shirley. Shirley had a cell phone. Let's see.
Oh, yeah. Oh, head scratcher. Very good.
My gosh, she took my idea. So now I really have to improvise and use my item in a new way that since I was going to go with a head scratcher, I'm going to have to make my ice scraper. Plug it.
Razor. Oh, yeah. Very good.
There we go.
You're so clean shaven.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I could probably use something like that. Maybe that's a good Christmas idea for me. All right. So there we go. So the object game is so much fun to play with your loved one. And you might find, too, that they actually are picking up objects around the house and thinking they're supposed to be used for different things. Now, that's okay as long as they're safe. One of the things that we talked about earlier is not correcting, trying to not be in the habit of saying, no, 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 that's not what that's for. But if your loved one is looking for the remote control and happens to have the cell phone, might be a great way to then take the remote control and you can play a funny game with it and be like, hello, oh, here it is, and actually give them the remote control so they can actually use it. So that it eases the tension, eases the frustration, and doesn't come off as correcting or saying no. And none of us like to be told no, that's for sure. And this is a great way to ease into that without saying no.
Shirley, do you have any questions based on what we've talked about so far?
No, I don't have any questions.
All right. Maybe one of the things that we could do, and then we can wrap up if you'd like, or we can do something else, is we talked about this yesterday, and this is really kind of the foundation of everything around what I do, which is massive acceptance and radical presence. And what that's allowed me to do in my caregiving role is to serve Jack in the best possible way for what he needs, and then also for me to stay positive and balanced. And so when I'm noticing changes in the progression of his diagnosis, I don't go back and remember what we used to be able to do and feel bad that we can't be doing it now. And I don't be like a screenwriter, like a fortune teller, and come up with all these just different scenarios of what might happen. When I massively, massively, massively accept that this is what's going on with him and accept every single part of it, and that's what massive acceptance is I accept it in its entirety. And then I stay radically present, because if it's only in this moment, it's only right now that I can connect with where he's at and what he has access to. And if I am accepting it, then I can have with clarity the opportunity to see what's going on in the moment. It's not filtered by anything else. And when we do things like these exercises, for me, they're a really valuable thing to be able to do to see what he still has access to. During COVID, when we were doing our little video chats, while it would appear that I was just chatting with him and I was smiling and we were having a good time and I was telling him I loved him, but I would ask questions to see what he had connection to. And I was observing whether or not he would look me in the eye, or whether he would stay focused and what things he had access to. And based on those things, then I could have conversations with the support team members and say, what are the things that I can be doing to help him be the best resident and to have him have the most positive experience? And we can work on those things together. And so that's really been the thing that helps me the most for the whole caregiving journey. And through all of this, I'm able to just stay very positive and balanced with it and be with him meet him where he's at.
Yeah, and one of the things that we talked a little bit about yesterday that we wanted to touch on today is with that attitude, the radical presence, the massive acceptance, it helps me as a caregiver take care of me. And one of the things that we think is so important that you hear all the time in this journey is you got to take care of you before you take care of anybody else. And so it's very important that we take care of ourselves. And this approach really helps in that. And one of the emotionally draining things about being a care partner, I find, is that all the different emotions that I'm faced with all the time. And as long as I'm not taking on every one of those emotions and I'm staying true to myself, true to my emotions, it helps me go in for the long haul and be there and be present in the moment and not get caught up in all the emotional drama that comes along with being a care partner.
Right, and we had talked about you have a great improv, and I don't know if do we have a couple minutes to do it real quick? Felicia, we have time, or is there something you want to? Should we do that, or? So a big thing that I found for me with self-care, whether it was with my grandmother or my father or now my husband, was observing if I had my emotion for the experience, or if I had taken on what somebody else defined it as, or if I was using a label, a word that somebody else had defined that I didn't have my own word for. There was a psychoanalyst, and when she introduced herself, she said this horrible, dreadful, debilitating disease. And she said it in that exact tone and in those exact, and I wrote it down. And I realized that it would be so easy for me to step into that being the definition of how I saw the disease, because she's a woman who has authority and she's been dealing with this for many, many years. And yet if I did that, that would not be my authentic emotion and I wouldn't have the right experience. And Craig, you have the perfect improv for this.
Yeah, emotional party. Which we all know what and sometimes it doesn't feel like a party. Sometimes it feels more like just emotion. We call it emo party, and it's a great way to demonstrate this whole idea. Now, someone's hosting the party, and they may be hosting the party for not a typical reason that we normally host a party, like a birthday. This might be for a different reason that you may not ever throw a party, like you just paid off a parking ticket. Right? So we're throwing this party and one person is the host, and they might be pretty happy to have all these people coming over. So the host starts off as happy. And then the first person that comes in has a different emotion, and they'll enter the party, and the host and that person take on that new emotion. Let's say it's angry, and that person comes into the party.
If they got a speeding ticket on the way to the party.
Exactly. They get to come up with reasons why they were there, why they're so angry. And you get to come up with your whole backstory about why you're angry. You're at the party because you're angry, and then everybody in the party's angry. Then another person comes in and they're sad, and because they just got a speeding ticket and they lost their license and they had to walk over, and they're sad, and they walk into the party and everybody's sad. And then the third person comes in and they're confused or scared or whatever the emotion is. Everybody takes on that emotion. Then as the people leave the party, we revert back to the previous emotion until the last person, the host, is there by themselves with their original emotion. Hopefully happy that they're having a party, or happy that all their crazy guests just left.
But the challenge with this in our lives is less how it ends up where we come back to our own emotion, as it is that we hang on to the emotion of somebody who was at the party. That when the party is over, we actually have all of those emotions or somebody else's emotion, and we've lost our own. We've lost the fact that we were really happy, and we don't have access to that anymore because other people have clouded or have gotten in the way of what our original emotion is.
Yep, so you'll find yourself accommodating for these other emotions. You might lose yourself in dealing with those emotions. And in this fun exercise, the whole goal is to take on those emotions. So after we're done with the exercise, see how it felt, whether it was exhausting or frustrating to take on all those different emotions or to switch, and then, or to even remember what the emotions are when you switch back and forth.
Craig, we've only got a couple of minutes. Felicia, what would you like to say as we wrap up? Because if we do this, I want us to be respectful of our time. We've only got a few minutes left. You're muted.
Well, isn't that something? No, thank you so much for both of you coming here and having us do these, because sometimes the improv really does help, and it helps you to get into that muscle memory routine and get people out of their comfort zone. So I really find this very useful for our families. And we're going to have both of these sessions recorded and posted to our YouTube channel. This way you can share it with your loved ones or folks who weren't able to attend today, because getting this improv out there for caregivers, I think is really important. And this helps us shed some light on some new holistic ways to approach caregiving.
And I thank you, Felicia, and your team there at the Arlington. One of the things I've respected the most about our journey there over the last 3 years is how much training you do with your team so that they can meet our loved one where they're at. And this was especially valuable to me during COVID, when your team was the face for my loved ones. And knowing that he had people who were meeting him where he was at and helping him connect with the emotions and do all of those things really helped me have peace of mind as well when I couldn't be present. So thank you. I am grateful for the opportunity to share. And I think our contact information is there. So if anybody has questions, either Craig or I will be glad to do anything else we can to be supportive.
Thanks, Sue. That means a lot. And we did our best as we could during a really difficult time that no one really was prepared for.
That won't happen again.
Nope. We now know exactly what to do.
Yeah. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Shirley.
Good to meet you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And we'll be sure to send out some information on Craig and Sue. And then if you want any information on the Arlington, please feel free to give me a call at 239-307-3009. Everybody have a great day. We appreciate you and thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much, Felicia.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.